Perfectionism is ruining your life. You will accomplish way more and get so much further in life if you actually deal with this issue. And that's why I made this video for you. So first of all, real quick, thank you for 300 subscribers. I'm incredibly grateful. And I know I'm pretty late with saying it, but my videos are usually scheduled a few weeks ahead. The video I posted where I thanked you for 200 subs is actually the video that got me to 300. Because that video got 1,000 views. My first video with 1,000 views. Thank you. Anyways, on to the video. It's an all too common issue for many of us that we start working on some sort of project and we get stuck on it trying to get the last few details right. But it's not actually about getting the last few details perfect. It's about fear. And I'll get into why in a minute. Anyways, the people that struggle with perfectionism, they usually say it kind of proudly, not as something they think of as a flaw at least. You've probably heard people saying, I'm kind of a perfectionist actually, with a hint of pride in their voice almost. But according to Jim Rohn in the book Cultivating an Unshakable Character, perfectionism is usually people turning fault into virtue. They say it like it's a virtue, a good thing that they live by. But it's actually just a bad thing. And people usually do this when being asked about their weaknesses, like in a job interview, for example. You turn fault into virtue. You say that your standards are too high. But the problem is that you're scared of putting it out there, putting your work out there and finishing it. Because putting your work out there actually makes you vulnerable. People might judge it, people might laugh at it, people might say it could have been better, and you can't stand the thought of the project not being as good as it could be. Perfectionism is ultimately just procrastination based on fear. Think about that. Perfectionism is procrastination based on fear. You're procrastinating because subconsciously you think it can't hurt you to work on the project, but it can hurt you to put it out there. That's kind of like people that shut themselves off from the world because in that way they can't get hurt. It's like, yeah, but you won't experience life. Which is the only thing we can and should do because one day we stop being able to. Perfectionism doesn't seem harmful to people, but that's a misconception. Another big misconception about it is that you think that's how you get places. You make something perfect, something really good, and it leads to success. But perfectionism is not something that gets you places. Action gets you places. And perfectionism is the enemy of action. You are allowing yourself to be held back, to be dominated by a vision of the future where you're laughed at or where everything doesn't go perfectly. That's just fear. And what's the difference between the fear of not making something perfect and the fear of anything else? You're still controlled by your fear. This negative vision, this image you have of the future in your head where everything doesn't go perfectly causes you to stay inactive. Rohn has two principles that lead to productivity and perseverance instead of procrastination and passivity. The first principle is to break it down. Break it down into manageable pieces and knock them off one at a time. Writing a 400-page book seems like a monstrous task, but writing one page a day doesn't seem as bad. So you break it down into bite-sized pieces. Principle 2 is write it down. Write down what you've done the entire day, all the activities, all the distractions, everything that happens. And you will be surprised to see how much you've been distracted and how many detours have come up. Keeping a time diary like this forces you to see what you're really spending your time on. And you should do this for about a week. Just get a little notebook that fits in your pocket. When you're forced to write about spending an hour on TikTok today, you might be less likely to do it tomorrow. By writing down all the stuff that you do, you will naturally and automatically kind of start optimizing what you do with your time. And once you do this, you will also realize how much you procrastinate and how much time you might waste on trying to get things perfect. So break it down and write it down. Writing it down might seem a little bit time consuming, but I believe it can lead to you optimizing your time as a result. And therefore, you would probably win a lot of time in the end. If you know you won't do this, then just at least try to be more aware of what you waste time on. And especially what tasks you're sitting with even though they're pretty much finished. What things your perfectionism is ruining. So that's what I got for you today. Remember, perfectionism is a fault turned into virtue. Don't waste time on getting one project 100% perfect when you could have spent that time finishing 10 projects that would have been 95% perfect. So get the work done, don't procrastinate, and earn your sleep. And by the way, subscribe to my channel, it really helps me out, please and thank you.